Hello everybody, my name is Alex Murphy and I am an avid Doctor Who scarf knitter. Today I'll be showing you how to replicate the green-yellow crude join on the season 16-17 scarf. This is for the advanced Doctor Who scarf knitter who wants a very super duper screen accurate version. It's very ugly looking when it's done right, but that's how it is, so I'll be showing you how to do that. Just a little bit of history. So the season 16-17 is the original or hero scarf that was attached at Tom Baker's request to the stunt duplicate scarf. Tom Baker thought it would be really funny if the scarf kept growing longer and longer and longer. He liked visual jokes like that, so he went to the costume designer, June Hudson, at the time, and requested that the stunt duplicate and the remnants of the original scarf be sewn together to make a super duper long scarf, which she obliged. And at that time, the hero scarf had a lot of damage done to it. And I'd imagine that this yellow-green area and the red area on the other side were damaged enough that they wanted to remove them. But the BBC department didn't do a very clean job of it and made some very icky joins, which were there for the entirety of season 16-17 until the scarf got its final revamp for the story Shada, which never actually aired. You will need your scarf, obviously. You will need your yellow and your green yarns. You're going to need something to secure your stitches with. I knit on circulars, so I just use the cord. You want two of them because you're going to be securing both sides of this after you cut it. What I used to do is I used to take dental floss and I used to take my darning needle and I used to actually weave dental floss through. You could do that with excess yarn or anything really. I think personally that this is easiest. Something to secure your stitches with, a pair of scissors, a crochet hook. I like to use a crochet hook that's at least comparable to the size needle that I used. So this here, it's a G hook, which is equivalent to a size 6. There we go. I knitted it on a size 5, but it's fine. Also, a little TARDIS thing. It's cute. I'm sure they won't mind my free advertising. Let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to do is something that I have already done, and that's when you're doing your scarf, when you get to the point on the pattern, it calls for the crude join. What I do is I knit a couple of steek rows. It's not a true steek, but essentially all that means is that I've knitted some dummy rows in here that I intend on cutting and removing. So I've done 3 rows of yellow here, then done 1 rib of green, or 2 rows of green. The reason I've done that is because on the real scarf, when they joined it, it was flipped backwards. I don't know why, but that's how it is. And you can see in this photo here, the back side here, and then this is the front side here, and you can see that that's the same there. So I've knitted this just to sort of mimic that, just for my own sanity. The next thing that you're going to do, you're going to take your securing thing, and you're going to secure your stitches here. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to cut this, and that will make all of these stitches live again. And you don't want to accidentally lose these. I take a knitting needle, and I just run it through, make sure I get that last stitch. I don't leave any of them loose. So I just take it, start there. See on the back side here, that's all the last ones. So I just do this. It doesn't matter if you do it from the top down like I am, or if you do it from the bottom up. The important part is that you do it consistently throughout the whole thing, or your stitches will end up very funky. So okay, I've secured these purple stitches, and I'm going to do the same for the red stitches. So now I have secured the red stitches as well. You can see there. So now both sets of stitches on either side of our steek rows are secured. So when I cut this and I remove these threads, it's not going to unravel my whole scarf. The next thing you're going to do, and usually the most difficult part when you've never done this before, is to take your scissors and you're just gonna cut that. I know it's painful to watch. The really scary part about cutting a steek is that it's really easy. You feel like it should be more difficult, but it's not. You want to make sure you don't cut any red stitches or any purple stitches. We're only cutting out this because these are just filling in for the moment. So I like to pull it tight. Here we go. You want to be really careful at the end because you have the edges sort of poking up there. So go right up there. There we go. And now your scarf has been separated. So nextly, you're going to remove all of this. You can just throw it away. You don't need it. This will make a big mess, but you need to get all of that yarn out. So now that you've removed all of your excess yarn, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take purple end, move the red out of the way for now. We're going to take our green yarn and we're going to take our crochet hook. This does require some rudimentary crochet skills, but don't worry if you've never crocheted before. In fact, you should probably worry more if you have crocheted because you want it to look terrible. It's supposed to look crude. Leaving a bit of a tail, we're going to start with a slip knot, and this is the same. If you use a slip knot to start your cast on, then it's the same thing. Some people don't use a slip knot. You're going to make a little loop like that, right? And you're going to take one side, either side. I like to take the tail side. And you're going to stick it through this way. See, tail comes through, makes a second loop. It comes up. It comes up like that. That's where you're going to put your needle. If that makes sense to everybody, you can play that back over and over again. You're going to pull that tight, and you're going to pull on your tail. That will tighten that up. You want to leave about 6 inches. I find that that's very helpful. Better too much than too little. You can always cut excess off, and we'll just darn it in. So, and what we're going to do is we are going to crochet a slip stitch border here by slip stitching into each of these live stitches here. Don't worry about being too perfect. It should look lumpy and bumpy and haphazard. Slip stitch is the easiest crochet technique that you can learn, even easier than single crochet. And you need to know this to do the border on the season 18 scarf, so it's good to learn here if you've never done it before. So hold your crochet hook however is comfortable for you. I like to hold it sort of like a pencil. Hold your tension in your other hand. That's how I hold my tension. However you hold your tension when you are knitting will work. Put your crochet needle in knitwise into your loop. You're going to move your hook around the yarn like that. So do a yarn over. You're going to hook it and you're going to use the hook to pull it through the loop. And then what you're going to do is you're going to actually have that pulled through all the way. So you're going to pull it through the loop that was already on your needle. So once again, you have only one loop on your needle. So let's do that again. So here, we've got our next stitch, which will be considerably harder to get into, it looks like. We're going to take our needle. We're going to stick it in knitwise in the stitch. We're going to do a yarn over, grab it, pull it through, and pull it through. There, just like that. We're just going to continue across, slip stitching this closed. My tail came undone. I've stitched all the way across. with my crochet hook and my slip stitch. So this is the very last one, and I have cut the end. I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to pull it through. That will bind off my end. So you can see here that I've done a bunch. These are where I did multiple slip stitches into one purple stitch. You see these are nice and loose, really big. These ones are less so. So it's pretty messy. You can see towards the beginning there, I was stitching that a bit tight, and that's okay. I loosened up as it went. So that's done. So the next thing that we're going to do is going to be on the same side, and we are going to make another row of slip stitches, but this time we're going to do it in yellow. So one of the interesting features of the join is that it tended to be wedge-like, sort of triangular in shape, especially in City of Death, which is what most people try to make their 1617 scarves for, so they cosplay from City of Death. So what I like to do is to start the yellow end on this side from in a little bit, just so that it's not too thick over here, because over here the join is really small and then it grows, so it gets really big at the end. So the next thing that we're actually going to do here is that we are going to remove our cord, because we don't need it, because these purple stitches are now secure. One of the things that I'm doing here to prepare it for the yellow is that I am taking my green and I'm pulling on the stitches to pull them up. And you're going to pull them, and like parts are going to come up and other parts aren't, and that's all of that stuff is great, because the messier the better. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our yellow yarn. Where is my crochet hook? It fell. Starting from the same side, start a few stitches in, try to get the wedge look of the real scarf. So let's say maybe a good inch and a half, so maybe like here-ish. Start our slip knot. Right. You know what, let's start here. It's a nice tight one to start on. I'm going to hook it into the back of these green loops. There we go. Pull that through, pull that tight. Some nice gross pulling on there. And you're going to want to do the same thing. You can even kind of, sometimes you can skip over, give it that extra like weirdness. You really want to start tight out here, especially on this yellow one. You want to start tight with tight stitches, and then as you move out, get looser so that the join gets a little wider. And we'll do more on the other side to help that as well. But for now, keep this in mind. This is what you're going for. So here I have finished the slip stitch border there. So you can see I intentionally made it messy, just like the rest of it. So once you're done with that, you can bind it off, and then we're done with this side for now. After you finish that part, put it aside and move on to your red side. So you're going to hold this the same way you held the other side. You're going to start by slip stitching a row of yellow slip stitches to essentially bind off these red stitches. So you're going to grab your yellow yarn and make your slip knot just like you have been, and bind off your stitches. So I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so once you finish that, this is actually a bit neater than I was anticipating. What you're going to do is you're going to take your two ends, match them up backwards from each other, and you're going to find which end, it's this end, is going to be the small end of the wedge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our red end, so this was the small side. What we're going to do is we are going to crochet, not slip stitch, but crochet an end here onto this the way that we did the yellow onto the green here. We're going to crochet a row that we're going to start very small, just like slip stitches and stuff. And then as we get further along, maybe add a couple single crochets and some double crochets. And then by the time we get down to here, you'll be doing single crochets and double crochets and slip stitches and triple crochets and stuff, so that it's very wide and very loose up in here. And the more that you mix up the single crochets and the double crochets and the triple crochets along with slip stitches and things, the more that you mix those up, the more crude it looks. So I'll give you some starting points. So I started from in here the way that I did down here. You're gonna grab your crochet hook. Once again, make your slip knot. You can start in a couple. I mean, not as wide as the last one, but we'll start, say, here. And let's go back into that one and do another one. Great. If you want, you can go through both of them. Do it like that. Just, you know, see, just stuff to sort of get it messy here. So let's do another single here. Let's chain one. That looks real messy. That's good. That's what we want this here. That'll look real ugly. A single crochet is not very difficult. Crocheting is really not difficult at all, just like knitting. To make a single crochet, you are going to put your needle in to your stitch. Come on. You're going to do your yarn over like you normally do for the slip stitch. You're going to pull it through, but instead of pulling it through both, you're just going to pull through the one. Then you're going to yarn over again, and you're going to pull that through both of those. And that is a single crochet. This in here. Pull that through, yarn over again, pull that through. Now we have two single crochets. So let's do a slip stitch. Yeah, why not? Let's grab some of that red. Let's chain one, and then let's do a single crochet to here. Great, nice and icky. Let's do some more single crochets. You know what? Let's do two sets of single crochets into this stitch here. See, now we've got a little bit of height there. See, it's sort of popping up. That is because we are using the single crochets. So let's do some more single crochets, and let's add some double crochets. So a double crochet is going to be a lot like the single crochet, except you're going to start with a yarn over. You're going to go into your stitch, let's say this one, and you're going to pull through just like a single crochet, but now you have 3 loops. So you're going to do your yarn over, and instead of pulling through all of the loops, you're just going to pull through the first 2, and that's going to leave you with 2 loops. You're going to yarn over again and pull it through all of those. That makes sense? Great. So then let's slip stitch there. See, and that'll give it some real bulk there. So let's chain a couple here. And then let's do another slip stitch just to make it ugly. Going to here. And then that's another there's a variation that you can do is you start like you're gonna double crochet, but then instead of actually doing the pulling through 2, you can just pull through all 3. And it doesn't matter because it's supposed to look messy. There, and it's getting bigger. All right, and now, you know, we're pretty much to the end here. Got just the last couple inches here, so you can start throwing in some triple crochets. So to do a triple crochet, you're going to do 2 wraps. You're going to go into your stitch. Let's do this one for now. Do your yarn over. You're going to come out. Now you're going to have 4 loops. Pull your new yarn over through 2 loops. Do another yarn over through 2 loops, and then another yarn over. You can just, I mean, all you really have to do at this point is just to screw around and have fun and play with it. You just spent all this time immaculately replicating this crazy piece of art, and now you get to sort of screw around with it. Just do whatever you want. Have fun. Once you've completed that, you can see here, it's very gross and messy. You should be aware of it looking a little too crocheted, like areas like that. If it does, it's okay. Just try to, when you do this next step, work with some of that so it looks a little messier. So you're almost done. Once that is completed, you're going to take your 2 ends and put them up next to each other the way that you're going to connect them. So again, remember that these sides are going to be incorrect from each other. I'm actually going to flip it this direction. You're going to take your yellow yarn and cut yourself, pull several yards of it. You won't use several yards, but you want way more than you actually need. See, I've got a bunch here, so have your yarn, cut it. Your thread, your needle. Take your needle, and you're going to want to stick it through. It doesn't have to start right here, but you want to stick it underneath here. Underneath these green ones is what you want to catch. You don't really want to grab the purple if you can avoid it. Just grab the green. Pull it through. You can actually do this like you're sewing. You can double it up if you want. You don't need to because the thread is strong enough that you don't need to do that, but it's all personal preference. You're going to sew that through there, down here as well. And again, you want to just catch your slip stitches. You don't want to catch your other color. We're just going to go through like this, just catching those slip stitches here. You're just going to sew them together, just with not even a whip stitch. You're just moving. You're just going to put the needle in this way, and then this way, and then this way, and this way, just back and forth through the whole thing. I got a little knot here. A couple of things to be aware of, aside from your yarn knotting, is that see, I do that right on the next stitch there. Pull that. Ooh, pull it tight. Not too tight, but tight. So that moves right to the next stitch there. If I then put this through, say here, I go a couple of stitches over, it's like 2 or 3 stitches over, and I pull this through, what's going to happen is this here is going to bunch like that when I pull it tight. It's okay to do that. Try not to do that too much because this isn't really a very bunchy part, but just keep that in mind. And you really do want to pull this tight. You don't want there to be a whole lot of slack in the middle here. When you start to get to the place where you have done a secondary crochet, like here, so you can see the second one starting, you want to attach it to that second crochet. You don't want to keep going on the first crochet. So what we're going to eventually do here, after this is all joined again, is we're going to block the whole scarf. And that's going to pull this like that. So you want it tight enough that this doesn't happen, where you can see that it's being stitched together. But it's just loose enough that it will give some distance there. At this point, this is what it should look like when you get here. So you can see that the edges pretty much line up. And you can see I fixed it. It's a little bunched, but that's fine because it's supposed to look like that. So this is how you know you're on the right track. They should meet up. And go ahead and finish doing what you were doing. I have finished sewing the two ends together. Look at how messy that is. Isn't it beautiful? What I do to make sure that I am getting my connecting thread as tight as it needs to be is I take my excess here and I pull on it and I bunch all of this up. You can take the excess on the other side as well and pull on it to bunch all of this up here in the middle. And then just take it and pull it just enough, pull it out again just enough so that this can lie normally, so that you don't want to over pull that. I don't think that you can actually, but this should all still be bunchy because you're gonna block it like that. So if you want to pull all that. And see, look, see that is still, that's too loose still, so you can actually pull that. You can actually pull that a little tighter in there. And I'll work on that myself, but that's how I make sure that that is as tight as it needs to go. So once you're done with that and you've completed that, all you have to do is just take these ends. First, secure this off, tie a little knot or something. It doesn't really matter. And then take these, make sure that they're secure, and then you can just weave them in however you want. It doesn't really matter if little ends poke out or anything because it's already, pretty nasty looking. All right. Thank you so much.